Tell us how, in your experience, the dating experience differs between big cities, medium-sized cities, suburbs. How does place impact?
I think it has a huge impact, and I also sort of joke with people that no one thinks they're dating in the best city. People who live in big cities wish they were in a smaller city or even the suburbs because they feel that their options are too enormous, that they're scrolling through websites of face after face and they feel like there are just too many people there. Meanwhile, the people in smaller cities feel like they don't have enough options. So I think that, dating, because it's a little bit of luck and a lot of just, who you meet, no one thinks they're in the exact right place. So what I would say is that it's easier to meet people in a city, as we know. I've been told that Boston, is a place where it's a little bit harder to break into a group that might, maybe the people have known each other since elementary school. But I happen to think that
because it does have longer-term residents. It's not just a city built of migrants.
Yes. I mean, I think when you're in a city that has more transient employees, D.C. is a good example where you have people who might be working for the government in 2-year positions and 4-year positions. They're in and out, and they're looking for that kind of community. Now, I would argue, to the people who say that Boston is a little bit too difficult to break into, that we have a lot of universities here. So people are temporary and looking for community. So, I think that every city has its own benefits and challenges. I do think that single people tend to flock to the cities for a reason, which is that people are everywhere and people are, in numbers online and in person.
So one of the things that happened with the Great Recession was the share of 20-somethings living with their parents exploded. So right now, if you look at actually jobless prime-age males between 25 and 54, 35% of them live with their parents. Is that a phenomenon that
Yes.
that you're seeing? And how does that impact?
Yeah, especially in cities where it's expensive.
Sure.
I joke that many times I think couples move in together in cities not because they're ready, but because of the rent. They're ready to not have a roommate, but they're also ready to not pay rent on their own. And I have to wonder how many of those couples, if they lived in the suburbs where it's less expensive, how many would actually move in together? I think probably half would not.
So Boston's high housing prices have created more togetherness? That's
maybe some togetherness that shouldn't be togetherness.
Right.
I do, the commenters on my column online, they joke every time they hear the word lease, they talk about the romance of the word. Like, my lease is up, I think we're ready. And how else can you afford it, right? So you're either going to move in with your partner before you're ready, or maybe you're ready, or you're going to move in with your parents. So then I hear from people saying, how do you date, right? Not everybody's parents are super cool about having people over. So it's limiting for a lot of those people. And I think that unemployment rates, when we were seeing more jobless people in cities, dating is expensive. So you might be courting one person at a time in a world where you're just dating in the real world, right? I met some woman at a club, at a bar, I've asked her out, that's one date. If you're on Tinder, you could be going out on 5 dates a week. These are quick turnarounds. These are quick first dates, and is this worth moving on or not? So that's expensive. Even if you're having coffees, that's expensive. So for some people, they've said, I can't actually afford to date right now. And I think that's a new concept.
Tell us more about the menu of ways in which people meet each other in cities.
So usually it's online, but there are still ways that people meet in person in cities, and cities always have these great ways to connect with people with similar interests. Most cities I visited have so many recreational sports clubs that everything for everyone. And I joke, I had a friend who did floor hockey, and it was clear that she was doing this to meet a significant other. And I think that happens a lot, right? Where there are all these
I didn't know that people, we played floor hockey in my high school.
Yeah,
and
apparently people still do.
It's wonderful.
So apparently that's the way to meet someone. I also know that there are a lot of young professionals groups. And one thing I laugh about is that in cities, young professional means many things. I always thought it meant that you were a 20-something. In Boston, I believe that the Boston Young Professionals Association cuts off around 40, which means you're a 40-year-old young professional. And as someone who is just about 40, I don't know that I consider myself a young professional anymore, but I also joke that there's the Boston Center for Adult Education, and many cities have these places where you can have continued education, and I think they offer classes such as, cooking for singles. Well, these are clearly
going to attract other singles there.
Messages to people to say, this is a way you can meet someone. And they're smart. They know that there's an economy to this, right? People are happy to pay for a class where they could meet other people. So there's really, there are a number of things offered because people will pay the price.
And the classes will also often give you a way of interacting that isn't as artificial as a date often is. You're actually doing a proper activity, which is somewhat like what you'll actually do if you had a long-term relationship with them, as opposed to convening for the first time over a meal in a,
Yeah, it's much less awkward if you're all in a cooking for one class and you're all making lasagna. You're going to have to talk about that lasagna. So, I mean, for some people who really just, have trouble trusting the internet, I mean, I think it's great to live in a place where you can have that opportunity to share an activity.